La da dee, la da da da. Doing my thing real quick, my friends. Letting the world know. And we are live. Hello, crafters. I'm Big D. And let me tell you, start off right now. Many of you noted that last week, like in the middle of the show or right near the end of the show, everything collapsed, everything disconnected, and you are correct. It did. My connection has gone to shit. I have a brand new modem coming. I should have it tomorrow, hopefully. It'll give us more bandwidth, more stability, more loveliness, everything we love. Live streaming here in the modern era. I'm actually upgrading to that whole gig connection. I'm so excited. And we're going to do something a little different today because my connection is for shit. I'm going to start off with a great big thank you to all my patrons. So, hello everyone, I'm Big D, and this channel is brought to you by me and by my lovely friends from Patreon. I want to list off my patrons and how wonderful they are, how much they mean to me, because they do mean a lot to me. And I want to make sure people know that I take this very seriously. So I want to start off with my Battle Brother tier. I want to start off with Inquisitor Zane, my man, Tina Raven, Tina Caraschio. Thank you so much. My buddy Mini Warmutt, who has his own channel. If you're not subscribed to Mini Warmutt, you should subscribe to Mini Warmutt. He does some really great content on playing atypical games and painting figures and whatnot. He's a great hobbyist, great guy to take a peek at. And then lastly, my brother, my big brother, who I love so much, Alex Drake, the master modeler himself. I got my battle leader tier, which has three members, all of which are, again, still very important to me. I have Joe Bookish coming out of Cleveland. My man, Joe, haven't seen you in a while. I'm really worried about you, buddy. But at the same time, I heard from you, I want to say 2 months ago, you said everything was good. So just, you're in my thoughts. Thank you so much for your support, brother. I have the Black Rose Dragonite, better known as Mythos, from Frost and Fist, at the channel that, one of the channels that helped me get my start and kind of kickstarted me into being more than just a little tiny channel into something of a channel. So thank you so much, Mythos. And then lastly, the man in the chat who's asking if my new modem will make coffee, the amazing Ben Caraschio, host of the ever popular and ever fun Friday Night Kill Team here at Milwaukee at the Layton Plaza Games Workshop. Lastly, I've got my two Warlord tier patrons. Two people I'm surprised neither one of them are in chat right now. One of them is my moderator, meaning if we were insulted by people, he would not be here to defend me. I would be helpless and defenseless. You're killing me here, Smalls. You're killing me. My good buddy, the Commodore. And last but least, the lovely, wonderful, and beautiful Lady Phoenix. The Phoenix Pirate. There's so many different names. But I do love y'all. I thank y'all. I appreciate all you so much. It has been a crazy week. So first off, I want to address Saturday. I was supposed to play at a Warhammer 40K tournament on Saturday at the Layton store. And I was literally all set up. My army was in the box, in the car, all my lists, all my cards, all my books, everything set up, ready to go, ready to spend a day playing Warhammer. And everybody who knows the channel knows that I am absolutely dedicated to my beloved wife, Lady Dragon. She means the world to me. She is having a rough period right now. We both struggle with mental health issues, and she's got it compounded with the anniversary of the death of a very, very close friend of hers. And so she's been having some really bad anxiety attacks and some very needy points in her life where she needs me to be close, and literally goes into full-blown panic attacks at times, and just needs me there as a grounding presence. She had to work Saturday, and because of her health, she doesn't have the ability to call off work right now. And so she had to be there, but she was a wreck. So to keep her grounded, to keep her together, I had to give up a day of 40K so I could be nearby. So I played Magic at the store all day. Not to say I didn't have a good day. I had a good day. But it was more important that I was within range of her, so at any point she started having a panic attack, she could just kind of reach over, rub me on the shoulder, do the effective equivalent of go outside and touch grass, which is the effect I have on her. She can just go to me, touch shoulder for a minute, touch a hand for a minute, squeeze a hand, and it'll calm her down. And she was able to get through the day. We don't always have that opportunity. And there are days that she has that are worse. And she's working with a psychologist right now. And so things will get better. But this weekend was really, really tough on her. So if you're on her Instagram, if you want to, or on her Facebook, if you know her on her Facebook, just, shoot her a message letting her know that you're thinking about her and you care about her. And that would do a world for her right now. But that's the thing. Sometimes we may love our game, we may love our craft, but unfortunately, and it's been as long, because there are times I've had to miss Friday night kill team because I had to deal with my wife's health issues, both physical and mental, and she comes before my gaming. She comes before anything. So I apologize to those people I was going to play with on Saturday, and I apologize for if I took somebody's slot because of it, and I apologize to people that are disappointed they weren't able to spend that day with me. But I find that as much as I love gaming, and don't get me wrong, I love me some gaming. I love me some gaming. I find the necessities of real life, the importance of familial bonds, and the importance of taking care of one's spouse more important than any silly plastic paint game. So I had to make a decision for myself, then I made it in her favor. So that's all I need to say on that. But again, I'm sorry for anybody that was expecting me to play this weekend and I wasn't able to. So that being said, oh my God, Nova was this weekend, and did we get the reveals? Holy crap. Are we excited? We are so freaking excited. We're going to get the Voltan box before we get the guard. I know guard players, myself included, are like, God damn it, I want my guard stuff. But we are getting Voltan. We know the contents of the army box. We've already seen the codex. We've already got a leak of basically the full freaking meat and potatoes portion of the codex, including stats, stratagems, and army makeup and points and all that. My God, it's take a look at it. It's missing one page with some very specific weapon rules. So we don't know what ion beam weapons do, but that's the only thing we don't know at this point. They're slow and punch hard. So they're basically, and they're medium range. So they'll do well. I mean, they're not overpowered. I mean, they certainly beat the crap out of Marines, but which is bad. But they've got some fabulous models. Oh my God. Okay, we didn't get our land train, but that freaking gigantic battle tank / land fortress, I think that's what it's called, a little land fortress, is amazing. Oh my God, I need like 3 of them. We got to see the whole line. We got to see everything. And I can't be more excited for them than I am. We know what the box is going to have. It's going to have 2 boxes of the dudes. It's going to have a set of the bikes. It's going to have the leader, and it's going to have the lieutenant equivalent, the captain and lieutenant. The lieutenant equivalent is basically a dude in a rocket suit that just rums up and punches stuff. Oh, jeez. He looks ridiculous. So I'm excited to get that box. I am definitely getting that box. I'm still working on a paint scheme for them. I want to do something different with them. Man, they look great. Won't be enough in the single box to actually get a tournament force. Just going to basically get them started. We also got to see... I mean, we got to see the whole freaking line. We got to see the Berserker Kin, which are basically giant dudes with axes and maces and fists and just ridiculousness. We got to see their only named character, who is an absolute badass. We got to see their repair equipment, which has a lot of wounds. It's like 5 models, but it's one dude with his little robot helpers, and the different helpers give him different abilities while they're still alive. We got to see their psyker, who's basically got a robot burb that kind of flies around with him. The bikers look amazing. Everything just looks great. They got the big tank, and then they got the smaller tank. That's their transport, but still has all the firepower of... I mean, it's crazy. It holds 10 guys like a regular transport. So it's like a Rhino, but it has all the guns that, say, a Predator does. So holy crap, that thing's going to be a beast. And so the transport slot, you'll be able to put a bunch of them in your freaking army, because you can use them for any unit. So, whoa, that's going to be rough. That's been a rough army to deal with. And they're all very lunar modules / transform. I mean, they just look crazy. I love the design work and the whole design work of that, the whole aesthetic of that army, just hilarious looking. So I'm looking forward to them very, very much so. Then we got to see all the new stuff for Slaves to Darkness. Wow. I mean, I was really tempted to get into Slaves of Darkness. I got too many armies, though, so I actually have to say no. But I know Commodore just bought a bunch of Slaves of Darkness stuff, and he is going to be getting into them for Age of Sigmar, and they look amazing. They just showed off, like, this commander guy that's on a horse, and the paint job they did. I was talking with Tech Noir. He loves the model. He wouldn't have done the paint job the way it is. On the other hand, my concept, when I was thinking about doing a Slaves of Darkness army, it literally was my concept to do them in all like a very coppery bronze armor, like using Warplock bronze for like all of their metal, and then just a lot of that Nylock oxidation just all over it. So just make them look like they're just wet and oxidized and whatnot. It just looked so good. And then what else do we see? Oh yeah, the lovely the new models for the World Eaters. They looked really good. That's going to be a pretty good. Lady D's really excited by that. So, I mean, we got to see, and then we got to see some underground stuff. Unfortunately, I like undergrounds. I don't have the time to play it right now, so I didn't put too much into it. I mean, I've got so much underground stuff. Like, I'd rather focus on playing the stuff I have than going out of my way to buy new warbands for that. Only because I really haven't had a lot to play, so I don't need more when I'm not even playing all the stuff. And I've got a lot. I've got like 10, 12 warbands at this point that I'm not playing. Which is one of the things keeping me from getting really deep into Necromunda. I've got a buddy of mine that, like, he bought the Necromunda box and he wants to play that. And I'm like, okay, do I buy a box? No, I can't buy a box. I've got armies. I'll paint up a warband for that. I'll use one of my existing warbands because I've got a bunch of them. Same armies from the 90s set. Plus, I've got a couple boxes of the newer stuff we bought for various projects. Speaking of projects, this is a set of STLs that I purchased. That Warpstorm and Master Kirschbaum from the Warpstorm group is trying to get all set up for the end of the year tournament. They want to use, instead of any of our homemade stuff, they want to use these because they're sort of they're an upgrade. I mean, they're all printed on his FDM printer. These are from Talaxi Forge. And these are all built and designed with the ITC. At the beginning of the year, ITC put out a design document based on what they saw as requirements for terrain. And so they set a set of standard sizes and a standard board layout for ITC tournaments. And since Warpstorm wants to use ITC standards for their tournaments, we were looking at options. I saw these. I bought them. I wanted them for myself. But I thought, hey, you know, we could definitely use these. They look great. And that's what we're just trying to do. Just trying to get a rough paint job on a set of them. We've used them unpainted to see how well they work for our purposes, and they work amazingly. So now we're trying to get a rough paint job done on a set to see how hard, how rough it would be to actually get a set fully painted up so we can actually have some premier tables. The idea is that for our big year-end event, if we can not only have matching terrain for all of them, but if we can have them all like to this level of detail and quality. I mean, this is a print on an FDM printer, and these just look fabulous. They absolutely just look fabulous. So, and this is not art we're trying to make here. We're just trying to get some basics down. Some basic craft paint colors, primed in black, heavy overbrushing of a dark gray. Maybe do some wash, make some homemade wash. Throw some homemade wash over them. And then go on with like some very pale gray and do a bit of dry brushing. And then grab some silver and some secondary color and just pick out some details just to make them look a little sharper. But what I love about it is that they put enough detail just in the base model. So, I mean, all I did so far was just a black prime, and all you guys are watching how much gray I've put down on this thing. I have barely put any gray paint on this thing, but by putting it down in like a kind of a fast and dirty overbrush, I mean, this right here is 90% better than 90% of what you see on tables at tournaments. Because most tournaments, you see a bunch of cardboard and or foam board that's either just been hot glued or duct taped together, and that's it. This, just like this. I mean, if I did nothing else, this would be amazing to drop down and have an entire board of this. There's detail, there's definition. This looks good. This just like this. This looks amazing. And we're going to do more work on them. But I want to get some base colors down just to kind of see where we're at. So, and I mean, this would be great. I want to actually sit down with Kirsch and have him actually have him print me up a set for my own boards, just so I can have a set of these that I can go through for my own boards, that I can go ballistic on the painting and really paint them to a high-end detail. Because I don't know how well you can see it. Well, no, I can tell. You see it pretty well. The detail in these is amazing. I mean, when you look at, these by themselves are enough to make me think, oh, maybe I need an FDM printer to go along with my resin. Because I wouldn't want to paint these. I wouldn't want to build these in resin and paint them, only because I'd be too afraid they'd break. I mean, I like resin little figures, but if you're doing terrain that you're going to be moving around and has a chance to get the hell beat out of it, you really want that in FDM. You really want that in plastic. The other alternative is that I've been seeing some resin that's an ABS-like resin. I mean, when it dries, it's like ABS plastic. It's a really, really tough resin. I think there's supposed to be another piece here that might have either fell off. I'll have to check the floor and glue that on later, or It just didn't have a piece. What's neat is that he's using these completely burnt down ruins. We're going to be using them as the equivalent of woods, so that these terrain pieces look like just really burnt out ruined cities, which is a neat aesthetic. I like that. I like that aesthetic. And I will be making some homemade DIY cheapo wash to throw down on them as well. Wouldn't use the expensive stuff because I just can't see it for this kind of terrain. We can't see using it for terrain usually. But I mean, look at this. This is literally black primer and then me just taking a brush and overbrushing some cheap gray craft paint. And this looks great. I mean, like I said, I would be happy putting this on the table and just playing this for a tournament. It's better than 90% of the stuff out there. I keep saying it, but it's the truth. And you're seeing how quickly I'm getting through this just doing this much. So we're going to have, I think, 16 full sets of this when we're done. And I think we did this, we've got multiple styles that he gave me to do this in, so we could see the paint job on a couple different styles of the pieces. Kind of wish you were here tonight so you could see this. So we're coming into the winter season, or coming into fall at least, but we will be winter playing season. This is when, the holidays, events slow down, conventions slow down. I'm trying to organize an Age of Sigmar event for the end of October. 16 players, no big deal, just a simple event. We've got a venue that's willing to help promote it. I know some people go in the idea, well, I'm going to make a little money on this. I'm not going to make a dime on this thing. I'm going to recover my costs for printing out some medals and awards and stuff. But I want to put any of that award money that I can back into prizes. And I already talked to the store owner. He likes the idea. They just want to see the presentation and the proposal. I got to get it done this week if I want to have enough time to promote it. Terrain, Hellchild. It's actually a bunch of 40K terrain that we printed out for the tournaments that I help with. And we're just getting some test paint down to get an idea of what it'll look like on the board. But again, if you're interested in printing stuff, you got a printer. I got to give them credit here. Taraxi Foundry. I'll put a link in the comments below after this is in the archive. If you can't find them, but you can. I found them on Kickstarter, but they've also got a Patreon. It's good stuff, like I said, and they do a different set. They do a different design every month, and they do dice towers, and they do terrain, and they do modular terrain. And they just, like I said, they do a different design aesthetic every month. I happen to find them when they were doing a cyberpunk-esque design, and then and that was the design I bought. Kirschbaum followed them for a couple months. He picked up a couple of their other designs. Like I think one of these is the Ruined City. Like I think this is the cyberpunk design that I got. But they've also got like a Ruined City design, and then he found like a Fallen Elven City. And they had a fantasy one too. So they've got a lot of different designs out there. And they sell the completed kits on My Mini Factory, as well as having it on their Patreon. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't take much to make some battle-ready terrain if you've got an FDM printer to make it look good. I mean, this is pretty effortless. They put enough detail and enough textures on it to really make it attractive. So what do we have coming up? We've got, obviously, we've seen Votan will be by the end of the month. I believe they're going to go on pre-order. I believe they're going to go on pre-order the weekend of the 26th. And I think Guard will go on pre-order, and then which tells me something got pushed back, I think, because I thought Guard was really, I mean, I was being told Guard were going to come first. So I think something got pushed back because of how much traction the Votan have gotten in popularity. Or the Guard stuff keeps getting pushed back because of how complex the rules are going to be. Given that, according to at least one of my sources, the Guard rules are going to be one of the ones, they're going to be one of the last codexes for 9.0, but they're going to be forward compatible to 10th. They'll be forward compatible for 10th. So, I mean, we're going to see what? Guard, and then World Eaters, and then we're going to start seeing the lead up into 10th edition, much like we saw with Psychic Awakening. I'm assuming, from everything I'm hearing, that they're going to be doing the same thing. They're going to have some type of campaign thing. They started that in 6th. It does well. They did it for 7th. They introduced Guilliman. They did it for 8th. They introduced the Silent King. Now here at the end of 9th, they're bringing in the 3rd of the Demon Primarchs. So there's rumors flying about that we're going to see another Loyalist Primarch. That's the only thing I don't like about when they do all these releases. Like people will use the noise of the release of actual information to put their own crap in the rumor mill. And even if they've got no basis, a lot of it's just, this is what I'm hoping for, this is what I want. And it's why I have a hard time always reporting some of the stuff I hear, because there's a lot of bad sources out there. And I'm not one of these guys that has to be the first to report it. I'm far more of a believer in verify your sources. So if I don't hear from what I consider my verified sources, I refuse to comment on it or to say, yeah, I know this is coming. Yeah, exactly. 10-1 bad. 10-1 bad sources out there. There's a lot of them out there. Yeah, no, that's the word, and that doesn't give me a lot of hope there, Ben, because it tells me that the guard are either going to be really good right off the bat, or it means that they're not going to get updated. Quick overview here. See, look at that. That's just an overbrush over black primer, and that looks great. But that tells me that they're not going to see a rules update for the very large portion of 10th. And if that's the case, then guard are probably going to be like the Necrons were. Like right off the bat, they were really good, and then they quickly got outmatched as more and more codexes came down. And it wasn't until some of these final updates came down that they finally got good again. And I think after how good guard were in 8th and how good they were in previous editions from time to time, it's like when they were good, they were dominant, and when they were bad, they were horrible. I'm worried that's the kind of update guard's going to get. They're going to get like a right off the bat, a pretty good update, and then they're not going to see updates forever. So as other codecs come out, the creep just makes them look bad, and eventually they get relegated until some new update comes out, and then holy crap, they're top of the world again. I'm not a big fan of that. Honestly, I hate codex creep. I really do. I hate codex creep on a spiritual level. I hate codex creep. I don't have a problem with people that chase the meta. Play what you like. But I want every army to be good and compatible and have a chance. Codex creep takes that option away. I want every army to be on a par with each other, and it literally comes down to not who's latest and greatest, but who do you want to play? Honestly, it's one of the reasons I do play other games. It's one of the reasons I really like, honestly, A Song of Fire and Ice. It's a great game, and although sometimes the newest armies can be a little, they sneak out, or the newest units sneak out past the play testers or the developers. Cool Mini or Not does a really good job of updating the cards that power the figures. They do a really good job of updating them, like monthly, bi-monthly, every couple of months. I mean, they literally have, like, they keep an eye on who's playing what and what's broken and what's not broken, and try to keep everything fairly even. And from everything I've seen, it works out pretty well. I enjoyed the game. I'm not about the game. I enjoy the game. I don't want to sound like I'm bad mouthing it all, because I do enjoy the game a lot. It's based on a set of books that I like fictionally, but at the same time, one of the biggest problems, honestly, with building a game, it's the same reason I don't like playing role-playing games in established science worlds. Like, I don't really like playing in Star Wars or Star Trek and that type of thing, is because, I mean, you're not putting any of your own lore or any of your own spin on building an army. Like, if you're playing Lannisters, you're playing Lannisters. If you're playing the Night's Watch, you're playing the Night's Watch. So it's funny when it's set up based on such a static world setting. In that respect, it's a lot more like a historical game than a fantasy game. And again, that's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but rather than playing Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia and Han Solo, I'd rather play 3 leader types of characters I've created and put my creative forces behind. And I wouldn't knock anybody that gets that. I wouldn't knock when he gets that, because, like I said, it's a solid game. Hellchild, I'll tell you, if we can get a game going, I might see if I can get Commodore to set up a nice play area for us to play at his place, and then grab 2, because he's got all the armies. I mean, he loves the game so much, he's bought all the armies. We'll just take a camera over there and run a game and just put it out there. Or if not, I'll see if I can find a couple good places online, a couple good channels. It's a solid game. It's very back and forth. It's very reactive. It's I do something, you do something, I do something, you do something, I do something, you do. The game is constantly reacting. You're not just, I do all my stuff, and now you do all your stuff, and now I do all my. No, it doesn't work like that. It's, I do this unit, now I do this unit, and I do this unit, and the 2 players go back and forth. I like the books too. That's the thing. It's an IP that I really enjoy. I love the books. I love the shows. And I love that they've got that flavor in there. And I love that they try to maintain balance with it, even though you're dealing with some situations where things aren't balanced. Because honestly, what you're dealing with is a skirmish-based level thing. You're not dealing with a grand war. So Daenerys, Mother of Dragons, and her 3 dragons are a freaking expensive force, points-wise, but that's the whole thing, and they're most of a force. I mean, you'll get some, unless you're playing a really big battle, you'll get her and some dragons and a little bit of her raiders or her Unsullied. But if you're playing with the dragons, I mean, they make up a majority of points because the game is supposed to be balanced. Little D actually plays the Night's Watch. And I think the easiest way to describe them to somebody who plays 40K, the Night's Watch are kind of like the custodies of Song of Ice and Fire. They're expensive units that are very powerful, but because of that, it ends up being a low body count army. But they're very good at what they do. And Jon Snow and Ghost make a very good commander for an army. And that's the thing. It is fun. Like my army, I have Starks. I have a basic starting force of Lannisters and a basic starting force of Starks because that's the base box I got with. But my main army is the Men of the North, the Freemen. And I've got a couple of giants, and I've got a bunch of barbarians, and I've got some of the bronze-wielding cannibals, and I've got the spear wives, and I've got Tormund, and I love Tormund. He has a great... His ability on the battlefield is really cool. I want to get more spearwives because I actually really like what that unit does. I like how that unit plays, so I want to get a few more of them so I can put a couple of them on the battlefield at once. And again, putting it in 40K terms, the free folk are basically the orcs of the setting. You get lots of them. They're pretty crappy and they die really easy, but you put a lot of bodies. You put a ton of bodies on the table, with a couple really big support units, i.e., a couple of giants on the table. So it is fun. The mechanics are fun. The fact that there are non-combatant figures in the game and they matter. The fact that each of the factions play very differently. The three factions play very differently. You've got the Starks, you've got the Lannisters, you've got the as the main factions. Starks, Lannisters, because it's based on the war in the books, not in the movie and not in the show. So you got the Targaryens, you've got the Baratheons, but the Baratheons, again, everybody's different. Baratheons are really interesting because the Baratheons are two factions in one, depending on whether you take Stannis, and unfortunately, they're weird when you have to take either Stannis as your warlord or you have to take Renly as your warlord. And depending which one you take, matters which units you can take. Like, if you take Stannis, you can take some of those fire priestesses and some of the fire cultists. But if you take Renly, you can take House, is it Tarly? I forget the name of the house. But the Knight of Flowers and Olenna and that family, the family that Renly married into. You can take them in your army. And they're a very cavalry heavy version, as opposed to the Stannis version, which deals with a lot of heavy infantry and fanatical infantry. Tyrell, thank you. Yeah, you've got the Tyrells that can join if Renly is the leader of that faction. They are about to add they're about to add the Martells. They've been showing those off. The Martells are coming real soon. And they have the Greyjoys. The Greyjoys have their own faction as well. And then you have the Free Folk from the north. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. sixth faction, and then a lot of the smaller houses, are mercenary in nature, so that they can. Some of them are immediately tied to certain houses. Some are not. There's some houses that are completely neutral. They just added the Golden Company, so the Bravos mercenaries, and I think they can be taken by any force. But again, when you're dealing with mercenaries, there's a limit to how many you can have in an actual army. I think you can't have more than 25% of your actual force being mercenary. So you're limited in how many you can take, which I think is a good mechanic. That way you have to rely on your house's ability. And they're not the first mercenary, like the Boltons are in there and the Flayed Men. And I don't think they're specifically tied to the Lannisters. I think they can be used by anybody, because they don't know what loyalty is. But yeah, no, it's. Oh, I gotta glue that down. That's not glued well. Yeah, no. So the Song of Ice and Fire, it's a fun game. There's a competitive scene for it, I guess. But again, like I was saying, the big thing about them is that Cool Mini or Not is really good about updating them. And updating the rules, and seeing where something's broken or something's not working, and they'll adjust the points, they'll adjust the stats, they'll adjust rules to make things more viable and keep the game more balanced. Because their whole thing is that they just want to keep the game balanced and fun, no matter what army you're playing. Like, I know the Giants. There have been so many problems with the Giants because, they're a big freaking target. So, you pay a lot of points for a big unit. Well, are they worth it? Well, I would say they are, but at times they're not. So they've had their points adjusted a lot of times to try and keep them. They've had their rules adjusted a bunch of times. But I mean, that's a perfect example of how they try to keep their game living. Look at this. This is good. I got to get a couple more places in here, but yeah, I think for a base coat, for a quick, meaty base coat, that looks good. That's 6 pieces with a base coat on them. That quick. Done. So that'll be interesting to see. Oh, here we go. Kirschbaum. Here you go. Here's the first piece we painted up so far tonight. This is just primed in black and then got that gray undercoating on it with a dirty upper coat. So we're not doing it as a full clean coat, and we're letting places that are really deep stay deep black. No washes yet, but this is just with that basic detail. And then one of the forest pieces we've done so far. These are going to be great. Like I said, like I was telling you earlier, I hope to have these knocked out the next day or so. It's such a simple paint job. I just hadn't gotten around to it with everything going on. So what I was getting back to with the whole Cool Mini or Not, or with your own IP, the reason I haven't gone all in on Song of Ice and Fire, again, because it's preset world. So the world is set, but the characters are set, the named characters are set. There's no real creativity to putting your touches on an army. You're painting somebody else's creation entirely. Yeah, I could choose my own paint job, but Olenna Tyrell is Olenna Tyrell. Jon Snow is Jon Snow. Robb Stark is Robb Stark. None of that changes. There are no, you don't create a named character. Like in that respect, like I said, I think it's like more like a historical war game than say something like Warhammer 40K. You know, these guys already kind of have the set color schemes. You know, exactly. Ghost is Ghost. And I should point out, the wolves in the game, as far as I know, Rob's got his, John's got his. There is no lady, there is no Nymeria. I think there's a Shaggy Dog, and you get Shaggy Dog if you take his Stark as one of your non-combatant characters. That's the other thing that's neat about the game. There's non-combatant characters, and there's a board on the side. And putting your like when you move figures, like I'm going to move a figure, I'm going to move this unit. Then your turn, you move a unit. One of the things you can do is take one of your non-combatant characters and put it on this sideboard. And the characters that are on the sideboard, there's 5 slots. Except in the case of like when one house is in play, they get a second. There's a 6 slot, and then there's one that doesn't matter where you put him. He always counts as being on a certain slot. So there's 5 different slots, and those 5 slots, when you put a figure on them, something happens based on what you put on the slot. Plus, if it lines up with the character's ability, it often triggers like a warlike ability. Like one of the things I did with my Starks that I really liked was you could take Caitlin Stark, and one of the 5 slots, I don't remember which one. I remember it's the 4th slot over. If you put her on that slot, you could immediately roll a d6 or roll a d3 and heal that many wounds to a unit. And 1 wound is 1 person. So you can basically go, hey, that unit, I land there, I roll a d3, and yeah, I get to add that many people back into that unit. So that was a cool ability. That's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But I know like every army has a couple. And non-combatant figures cost points just like everything else, and you're working with a small number of points, so you might be able to afford 2 NCUs, maybe 3. So if both sides have 3, there's only 5 slots. So once you've filled a slot, you can't put another figure in there. So if you're specifically trying to do something with a figure, every time you want to go for that slot. That's why the one army that adds a 6th slot is so powerful, because it makes certain you're going to get your thing. I don't know if Hodor is in the list. I honestly don't know. Here's the other great thing. The price point of this game is wonderful. You spend $90 USD and you get an army. You don't need to buy anything else. You've got a 90-point army that has a fieldable 35-point army. So 35 points is probably the equivalent of about a 1,250 to 1,500 point game. And that's actually a pretty standard fighting size for that game. So you get a starter box, you're good to go. You're done. You don't need to buy anything else. But let's say you want to buy some different units. They're $35 a box. It doesn't matter what the unit is. So you want to buy an extra cavalry guy, an extra cavalry unit's $35. I want to buy some extra crossbowmen, it's $35. I want to get an extra giant. I think specifically the named giant, the one that I think he comes with like 2 other PCs and comes in a box. It's $35. There's a thing called Heroes. So like Stark Heroes 1, it comes with like 8 or 9 dudes in it. Maybe not many. Maybe like 6 or 7 guys in it. But it's 1 box, and it's got all the different characters in it. Doesn't have other units, but it has characters. And none of the characters that come in the starting box are put into any of the secondary boxes. So you really want to buy your starter box. And then after you've played that a bit and you know what other units want to add, you buy a box or two. And you could go nuts. You could buy a bunch of different units and completely swap out your army and go crazy. And that's fine. But literally every box is $35. So it doesn't matter, what the unit is. Is it a 4-man cavalry unit? Is it a 20-man infantry unit? Is it a 20-man crossbowman unit? Is it a bunch of 6 characters? It's a $35 box. So it's a very cost-efficient game, money-wise. Unless you're playing something like the Horde of the Free Folk of the North. Because, a lot of their regular units are pretty good. I like the Spearwives, and I like the Bronze Cannibals, and I like the Bone Soldiers and the Bear Riders. So there's a lot of good units in there. They're a little bit more expensive as far as points. Their base thing, I got 20 dudes and they're just the equivalent of orc boys. There's 20 of them in a box. You get 2 of them to start off with in your starter box. And you get a box of them, and they're $35 for a box of 20 of them. Now, remember, we're talking about points for armies. Armies are 35, 40. I think the biggest game I've personally seen was a 50-point game, and that's a pretty big game. A unit of cavalry is 6 points. A unit of Spearwives are 5 or 6 points. Those Raiders are 2. They're 2 points. So if I want to invest in a bunch of them, you're 1 unit of 6 points. I can get 3 units of my guys. They suck, but they are board presence. But that's, $100 as opposed to $35. So, and I'll be honest, I didn't know that when I bought the army, and I don't care because it's the army I want to play. But it's just kind of funny. It was I picked the one army that's going to take 1 million extra boxes to get up to speed. Jesus. So, yeah, Bear Riders. Bear Riders are so good. And again, if you're playing Starks, there's a couple of units I want for the Starks, because you can get for the Starks, you can get the Bear Island, the Bear Wives, I think they're called. And it's an all-woman infantry unit, and they're really good. But they're they're the people of Sir Friendzone's people. So but yeah, there's a lot of really good. I want to get some mammoths for my for my free folk. I want to get some of their mammoths. God, it's driving me crazy. It's a good game. I mean, I think I talked about enough. It's a good game. If you're looking for something alternative to 40K that you and a buddy can just drop a single amount on and go, Song Ice and Fire is the way to go. You drop $90, he dropped $90. You both buy a starter box. You got an army. They don't need to be painted. They're color coded. They're high enough detail so that if you want to paint them, you can, and they'll look good. But if you don't want to, they're color coded, so they're not just gray plastic. And they've got movement trays built in, because the movement trays are a big thing. It's a lot of rank and file. So it matters. Facing matters. Side you get attacked on matters. Turning and movement and all that. That it really at all part of it. It's a very tactical game. I was very impressed by the design. It's a fun game that's very tactically minded. Yeah, the Mormonts. The Mormonts have they have the Bear Sisters or something, and because they're a female infantry unit, and then they have there's 2 or 3 Mormont units. It's if you enjoy the fiction, it's solid because the game is 100% based on the fiction, not on the TV show. So, and there's a couple, like some characters have multiple different figures of them that represent different points in their life. I think the perfect example is Daenerys, because there's a Daenerys Targaryen. It's Daenerys Targaryen, Khaleesi. There's a Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons, and then there's a Daenerys Targaryen. I think there's a third one where it represents her. That represents her when she was ruling the city, like Queen Targaryen or something like that. They have different variations for her. There's a couple characters like that. If you're in the Lannisters, I know the Mountain. There's two different variations of Mountain. There's a Mountain that's on foot, and there's the Mountain that rides. And so there's two variations, and there's one that's on horseback and one that's on foot. And he is a terrifying thing to deal with on the field. My God, he is just a beast to deal with. And that's the other thing. Most characters don't run around by themselves. When you get a character, you take out the lead character, you take out the lead figure in a tray, and that leader is now running that unit, and so that unit has a special ability based on the leader that's with them. So yeah, it's a complex game, but it's not like overly stupid complex, so it is really good. I wish Commodore were here because he'd have a lot to say, because the man's played a shitload more than I have. All right. If you haven't hit that, we're halfway through the show. If you haven't hit like and subscribe, please go ahead and give me that like button. Let YouTube know I'm doing a good job for you. Let YouTube know that I am entertaining you and I'm giving you good information. I'm doing something. Helps the algorithm, helps out the channel. I am 10 subscribers short of 700. Not that 700 means much of anything. It's not like 1,000, but it's a big round number, and that's my goal. Right? It's my goal for before the end of the year to pick up those last 10 subscribers and get myself over 700 for the year. So if you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell, let you know when I do my show. You may have noticed my title is kind of weird this month. My connection has been shit. Now, as you noticed, last show, I lost like the last 15 minutes of the show. I disconnected. I managed to get back in, but I disconnected for like 15 minutes. I've had other shows that we got really wonky in there. Come to find out, it's my equipment, the equipment of my provider, and some other things as well. So I talked to my provider for basically most of yesterday, off and on, and tomorrow I should be getting a brand new modem and router as provided by my internet provider, and I will go from a 300 megabit connection to a full gigabit connection. So we're going to see me in live, full color, lots more Big D to fill up your day. Yeah, so if you get the Mountain that rides, you literally take him and take a Lannister cavalry. You take the front figure out, and he takes the place of the leader of that unit, and he gives them a special ability. And he is just God. And there's a Mountain that rides, so there's a version of him that's the cavalry, and the cavalry comes in a 4-horse block, and then there's infantry that comes in a 20-man block, and the ranks matter. It's really, like I said, the mechanics are really interesting. It's a fun game. I gotta tell you, I'm not a fan of the Lannisters from the books, but on the tabletop, the Lannisters are devastating. I freaking hate fighting against Jaime Lannister because he is the biggest pain in the ass to deal with on the board. If you charge Jaime Lannister's unit, You roll all your hits. All the ones that miss, you roll again, but they're coming back at you. They have a chance to hurt you. Basically, he gets a counter strike on everything that misses. So it is a pain in the ass. And yeah, when he was with a cavalry unit, I mean, he's just devastating to begin with. I think his unit is immune to like one of the effects, because like there's a like they're shaken. If he's in the charge, they're too afraid of him to be scared of anybody else. Yeah. So, like I said, and Jaime Lannister's an absolute pain in the ass. Tyrion, as a non-combatant character, he's able to do some manipulative stuff, like on the non-combat board. Like I think if you put him on, he's able to let you counter somebody using an ability. And there's a deck of cards that you get so many around to play with, and depending on who your characters are, depend what cards you there's like, here's my base stack, and then the characters I have, let me put in some extra cards based on who's in my army, and so they give me special tactics because they're the guys in my army. And I don't remember if that's based on the characters being in the army or that's based on who the warlord of the army is. But it's one of those two situations. And Tyrion lets you do some bullshit with the cards. He lets you do some card manipulation stuff. Tywin lets you do, like, it lets your hand get bigger because you have more to work with. I think Joffrey is always considered, no matter where you put him, he counts as his ability. Plus, there's one of the 5 squares called the crown. Yeah, it's entirely some shady shit. Like half their dudes are like do shady shit. The Starks, their NCUs do healing. Like almost all their NCUs, I seem to remember, do like healing or restoration. Like Sansa, I think, lets you draw cards when you put her in certain spots, or like I said, it's really cool. It's a very cool mechanics. All the armies play very different, and they all feel very different. So yeah, it's a fun game. The Starks are above the board, Lannisters are below the board. The Wildlings bend no knee. It's a lot of fun. So I enjoy it. The terrain's cool too because everything's flat, so you don't have to worry about, I can't move through there. No, the terrain's flat. It lies flat on the board, but it's there. So if a line goes through it, and everything's based on what your base does, how your base moves, and straight lines from your base, it's far cleaner in a lot of ways. So again, it plays more like a historical. Yeah, the Night Watch basically do. The Night Watch, they break shit. I mean, they are the defenders of the realm, so they break shit. Their crossbowmen are such a... I hate their crossbowmen. I couldn't get anywhere near their crossbowmen. They gun you down. So hard they gun you down. They basically have a built-in ability that's like Overwatch, except they get their normal numbers. It's just a pain in the ass. The only really disappointing thing is that you don't want to really build terrain for them, because the way the game is built, you want the terrain flat, because the way the game works, it's easier that way instead of having to lift a piece out and measure stuff. It's all very simple, and that's what I like about it. It's got complexity, but there's simplicity in a lot of the common sense rules. It's all 6 inches, 12 inches, 18 inches. Everything in the game is 6, 12, or 18. There's no 1 inch here. No, it's 6, 12, 18. Yeah, and the Night Watch box is really good. It comes with Jon Snow and Ghost in it, so I definitely recommend it. If Baby D was paying attention, he'd tell you the same thing because it's his favorite army. Jon Snow's his personal hero, so. And like I said, the figures are made. I mean, they're Cool Mini or not makes the game, so the figures are nice. They're made of high quality plastic. They're not the stuff that GW figures are made of. They're made of the really high-end stuff that board game figures are made of. Like if you played Zombicide, they're made of that kind of material. So they're a little bendy, but they're I want to say they're almost the same stuff that plumbing pipe is made out of, that same kind of plastic. So you hit them with a primer and they paint up, and if you look on Reddit, you'll see people paint them up, and they are highly detailed figures. They aren't just blobs of plastic. They're really, really quality figures. One of the things I haven't gotten to painting mine yet because I just don't have the time with everything else I have going on. Eventually I'm going to paint my guys. But like I saw somebody painted up a bunch of the Golden Company, the Bravosian Golden Company, and they just looked gorgeous. Commander with the Crow. Yeah, that's Mormont. That's Commander Mormont. I believe that's who I think you're talking about. He's one of their, you can actually take him as a non-combat. I don't know if you can take him as a combat or non-combat, but he's in the game. Amon, the blind dude, the advisor, he is a figure in there. Like I said, it's totally worth it. It's a good. There's a lot of the characters. Almost all the characters in the books are presented. All right. So Age of Sigmar. Let's quick go back to that for a minute. They've shown that the giants are getting new giants. Their king is going to show up. So new Super Gargant. Their book is coming, as well as one of the other destruction books. So it's not the orcs, it must be the Gloomspire Gits, because I think those are the only guys left. There's not, the Ogre More tribes, that's it. So the Ogres and the Giants are getting their books sooner rather than later. They're the next two coming out after the new two come out, which is the Lumineth and the Tzeentch, the Tzeentchians. The next two are both going to be destruction. The Ogres and the Giants coming. The couple new Giants they've shown are amazing. You've got their name dude, their king so-and-so. He was present. He was there when their god, when Bahamut died. And so they were saying, I mean, the figure's gorgeous. He's going to be like a priest-like character, which is interesting for the Gargants. So they're going to give him some priest abilities. And then the Ogres are getting stuff. Hopefully the Ogres will be good, because right now the Ogres are terrible, and I want to play my Ogres. And yeah, the first Prince Kaiser, we were talking about that earlier. The Slaves of Darkness, they showed off the first Prince, Chaos Rider, gorgeous figure. They showed off a lot of the new figures for the line. They're coming out in winter, so they'll be getting theirs probably November. I'm betting they're actually going to get a Christmas box. I'm honestly thinking they're one of the armies getting a Christmas box. Chaos has just got so much good stuff right now. The Chaos Demons book is out. I haven't actually seen it yet. I haven't heard terrible things about it. I haven't heard great things about it. I think everyone's it's Chaos Demons. I mean, they're hard to kill, but they're not really that great either. So, the big thing is that there's finally 40k rules specifically for running Belzagor with demons, Bellacor with demons. So, yeah, the Berserk. I don't know. I think for honestly for near Christmas, I think when we get the World Eaters box, we're going to get a box. We're going to get an army box, much like we got for the Orcs, much like we got for the Sisters, much like we got for the Lumineth, much like we're getting for the Votan. I think we're going to get the same thing for the World Eaters. I think we're going to get a box that's going to have a World Eater HQ in it, two groups of Berserkers, and honestly, with some of the pieces they've snuck out, I cannot remember the name of the unit, but there was a unit that used to be in the Codex for regular armies, and it was kind of like the Obliterators, but it was a melee version of the Obliterators. They were these huge, overly grotesque with lots of blades and guns type thing, and they were just goofy looking. Oh, Skynox, I just recognized your icon. I know who you are now. Hey buddy, how you doing? Mutilators, that's it. I think we're going to see plastic mutilators, and mutilators are going to be specifically a World Eaters only unit, because they didn't just take them out and remove them from Chaos altogether. They've been a model for the last 25 years. I'm doing good, man. I really am. I'm doing real good. I'm actually, if you're gonna be by the shop this weekend, I'm hoping to swing by to drop these off. So hopefully, hopefully see you then. But they were showing us some interesting new models and some interesting new bits on Warhammer Community this week. They're not Berserker bits. Like the arm that ends in a freaking giant chainsword. That looks like a Mutilator piece. So are you proxying a bunch of figures just to use them as Votan and just try them out? To test out what we know about them? Because that sounds interesting. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it if you do that. I'd love to hear what your results are. I wish I would have time this weekend. My wife has Saturday off, so I'm going to be able to stop by briefly, but I'm spending Saturday doing some family maintenance with the wife. I'd really like to hear what you have to say, because you and I have talked at length. If people don't know, the rest who don't know Skynox, Skynox is a really good player in our local community here. He plays Thousand Sons, he plays Custodes. Those are the main two armies I've seen. Oh, and Death Guard. Those are the three main armies I've seen him play, and he's always a freaking challenge. Actually, he's also playing. I hear recently he started playing Sisters too. So, yeah, you put that link in the chat, so I'd love to see that when you do that. I'd love to see that. I might even roll that on my site, because you've got good content. I like what you're doing. Yeah, that's true. You did win an RTT with it, so. Skynox streams on Twitch, so I will put a link to his Twitch stream. I'll put a link to his in the comments below for later on. Again, he's a great player. Personally, okay, now I know he plays Death Guard really good, and I know he plays Thousand Sons really well, and he plays all his arms really well. I have to say personally, I like him playing Thousand Suns the most because honestly, other than the pro players that come and play at the shop that we play at, I think he's the best Thousand Suns player I've ever personally known. I've seen him do things and I'm like, that's really cool, the stuff he does with them. I mean, and that's just me being honest, Sky. I seriously, I love the work you do with Thousand Suns. There are certain armies I know how to deal with. I know how to deal with Death Guard because I play them a lot myself. I know how to deal with Custodies because I've had to play against them a lot. Thousand Suns in your hands, I get really worried about playing them because it's like, oh shit, I got to deal with him and his bullshit. Yeah, so he does Twitch streaming and he does a lot of he'll talk about armies and he talks about, do some playing and talk about it and theory crafting. So I'll get that link down there. Sky, are you looking to actually eventually do any YouTube stuff? Because we can get you promoted on here too, man. For static content. Because I'd love to get some of your thoughts on that as well. Maybe we sit down and collab at some point. That'd be kind of cool. Maybe the two of us playing a game at FAC and you live stream it and I save it and edit it up to make it look nice to put on my channel too. So that might be something to think about at some point in the near future. That could be kind of fun. But we are coming up on the 10 o'clock hour. So we're going to be wrapping up stuff real good. I already get my shout out to my lovely patrons. I love them so much. Thank you so much. Everybody who does be a patron. Again, if you hit that like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. I'd love to get your feedback and comments. Love talking to you every time. Again, remember, guys, it's a game. We're here to have fun. Build them figures, paint them figures, play those games. Keep learning, keep striving, keep getting better. And remember, keep it epic and game on, guys. Be well and take care of each other.